Welcome to On This Day in Tudor History with me, Claire Ridgway, author of On This Day in Tudor History, as well as several other history books. Now I'm taking you back to the reign of Queen Elizabeth I today. For on this day in Tudor history, the 15th of January 1569, Catherine Knowles, also known as Catherine Carey, wife of Sir Francis Knollys, and she was also the daughter of Mary Boleyn and the cousin of Queen Elizabeth I, died at Hampton Court Palace. She was about 45 years old at her death. Catherine had been at court since late 1539, when she'd been appointed to serve Anne of Cleves, Henry VIII's fourth wife, and she'd risen to become Chief Lady of the Bedchamber in Elizabeth I's reign. She married fellow courtier Sir Francis Knollys in 1540, and they had a very happy and successful marriage. In late 1568, the royal court moved to Hampton Court Palace for the Christmas season, and Catherine, as one of the Queen's most trusted friends and ladies, accompanied the Queen to the palace. However, she became seriously ill over the Christmas period. Her husband, Sir Francis Knowles, was acting as custodian of Mary, Queen of Scots, who was being held in Yorkshire at Bolton Castle at the time. He asked permission to leave his post and to be with his sick wife, but he couldn't. He wasn't allowed to. When Catherine rallied, she asked the Queen to release her so that she could travel up to Yorkshire to be with her husband. But again, the Queen refused permission, reasoning that the journey might endanger Catherine's health. Francis was very angry and frustrated with the situation that he wasn't allowed to be with his ailing wife, writing of the Queen's ungrateful denial of my coming to the court this Christmas. At the end of December, he wrote to his wife with the idea of them retiring from court life and going to the country. Sadly, that never happened. Catherine went downhill again. The Queen had her moved to a chamber near her own and visited her sick cousin regularly. But Catherine died on this day in 1569, while her husband of nearly 29 years was still in Yorkshire. It is not clear whether any of her children were with her, but her daughter Lettice was not at court at the time. Francis received news of his wife's death from his brother Henry on his arrival at Bolton Castle on the 20th of January. In a letter to William Cecil, Lord Burleigh, Henry wrote that Francis was distracted with sorrow for his great loss. Francis himself wrote of the melancholy humour that grows daily on me since my wife's death, and described his pitiful case, noting that my wife disburdened me of many cares, kept all the monuments of my public charges as well as my private accounts. Now my children, my servants, and all other things are loosely left without good order. It is clear, as historian Nicola Tallis points out in her book on Catherine's daughter Lettice, that Catherine had been the glue that held the Knowles family together. Queen Elizabeth I was grief-stricken at the death of her cousin and friend, and even became ill herself. Forgetful of her own health, she took cold, wherewith she was much troubled. Privy Councillor Nicholas White wrote of how the Queen returned back again to talk of my Lady Knowles, and that she would harp much upon her departure. So she kept turning the conversation back to her cousin and her death. She also admitted that the long absence of her husband did greatly further her end. So the Queen must have also been guilt-ridden that she kept Francis and Catherine apart at the end. Elizabeth gave Catherine a lavish funeral at Westminster Abbey, spending £640, 2 shillings 11 pence on her burial, which in today's money works out at about £150,000 or over $190,000, a huge amount. Catherine was buried in the floor of St Edmund's Chapel in the Abbey, and her beautiful coloured alabaster monument can be seen on the wall of the chapel. The 4 shields on it include the arms of the Knowles, Carey, Spencer, Beaufort and Boleyn families, and it also features crests of a maiden's head, bull's head and swan. The Latin inscription translates to read, "O Francis, she who was thy wife, behold, Catherine Knowles lies dead under the chilly marble. I know well that she will never depart from thy soul, though dead. Whilst alive, she was always loved by thee. Living, she bore thee, her husband, 16 children, equally female and male, that is, both gentle and valiant. Would that she had lived many years with thee, and thy wife was now an old lady. But God desired it not. But he willed that thou, O Catherine, should await thy husband in heaven." What a beautiful inscription. As I explained in my video from the 26th of April on Catherine's marriage to Francis, Catherine is also remembered in the Knowles Chapel of St Nicholas's Parish Church, Rotherfield Grays in Oxfordshire, where there is a Knowles family tomb with effigies of Sir Francis and Catherine. By the way, some people believe that Catherine may have been the daughter of King Henry VIII. However, although we know that her mother, Mary Boleyn, was the king's mistress at some point, we do not know when or for how long, and Mary was married to William Carey at the time of Catherine's birth. Also on this day in Tudor history, the 15th of January 1559, Queen Elizabeth I, daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, was crowned Queen at Westminster Abbey. And I'll give you a link to my video on her coronation and the talk that I did last year. So do see the description to watch that talk. Thank you for joining me. You can subscribe by clicking round about there, and you can hit the bell to be notified as these videos go live, which is of course on a daily basis. You can also give me a like and leave me a comment. Thank you for joining me. Bye bye.